darkness, my old friend.
So I was originally going to make a video talking about the updated blog post Sony made detailing changes they have coming to PlayStation Plus. I was going to talk about some of the games they showed off that are going to be a part of the service, what I did and didn't like about it, and I was even going to offer a list of potential inclusions that I would love to see added. But then this thing decided to spring up again, and now I'm pivoting to this. For a while now, there have been rumors that Sony is going to once again remaster The Last of Us for release sometime later this year, presumably to tie in with the upcoming HBO Max TV series. It's a rumor that's been going around for a little while now, which means it's basically all but confirmed at this point. And if you couldn't tell by the title of this video, I have some thoughts on that.
I want to say right off the bat that I enjoyed my time with The Last of Us, but I've always felt like it was just alright. It certainly didn't warrant a sequel in my mind, but it's still a solid game that was a fantastic swan song for the PlayStation 3. One that ended up getting remade just barely over a year later on PlayStation 4 anyway, so way to completely throw that achievement out of the window, Sony. The Last of Us franchise doesn't need any more praise. Just look at the hilariously bad 2020 Game Awards ceremony where The Last of Us Part 2 won 7 of the 11 categories it was nominated for. I'm not saying these awards weren't deserved, but it's mainly because I haven't played The Last of Us Part 2. Based on how the first game ended, I don't really think it was needed.
I just want to say up front, if you are a fan of The Last of Us and are excited by all of this, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. But for someone like me who enjoys so many other franchises that Sony has, it feels like they're just trying to turn The Last of Us into the next Skyrim, where it's long past its prime but still constantly gets remakes because people for some reason keep buying it.
Now, with all that said, I want to talk about a bunch of other games Sony owns the rights to that I'd like to get remade in some fashion. Sony has a wide and proud history of fantastic titles that go unnoticed thanks in part to games like The Last of Us. And I feel like if they're going to pour hundreds of thousands of dollars into a game that they already remade once that's still playable on modern consoles, why not split that money up and release 2 or 3 other remasters instead that could potentially reach a wider audience?
So yeah, I'm going to talk about 6 games that I want to see remade because I'm personally tired of seeing The Last of Us getting such treatment when they have so many other great games that could easily benefit from having even the smallest bit of extra attention. That's the premise of the video, so we're just going to get into it.
Monkey.
Ape Escape is one of those series that I'm personally surprised we haven't seen more of considering its wider appeal. The simple cycle of entering levels and using specialized gadgets to capture various apes is just asking for more entries. And what better way to get more people wanting another entry in the series than with some HD remakes? An Ape Escape trilogy compilation would be an excellent way of doing that in my opinion, since only one game would feel too small and it would follow in the coattails of Crash Bandiboy's Insane trilogy. Breathe new life into the colorful visuals of the originals, possibly add in some more content like previously region-exclusive content like the Ratchet & Clank Ape from Ape Escape 3, and you have a pretty good seller in my book. Ape Escape is one of my personal favorite early franchises, and I wouldn't mind revisiting them all again. Sure, I can currently play Ape Escape 2 anytime I want thanks to the PlayStation 2 to PS4 re-release of the game, and Ape Escape is supposedly coming to the new PlayStation Plus program, but for now I don't have the first one, and the second one doesn't have a Platinum trophy, so why would I even bother playing that? Give me a collection with all 3 games, make them look beautiful, slap a Platinum on each of them, and you've got my money, Sony.
We need someone to get in here, kick ass, and get the core shut down ASAP before it goes to meltdown.
Nowadays, Insomniac are best known for the Ratchet & Clank games, the original Spyro trilogy, and their more recent foray into the Marvel Universe. But all of that wouldn't have happened if not for Disruptor. Insomniac's first game ever that was essentially just a clone of Doom with some additional platforming, Disruptor was a first-person shooter that was almost released for the Panasonic 3DO. But thanks to that system being an abysmal failure, as well as a bit of help from the at-the-time Universal Interactive executive Mark Cerny, the game made its way to the original PlayStation. Disruptor itself is, as I said, a Doom clone, but a lot of what became the DNA of Insomniac's future titles was born here, including their love for over-the-top weapons, enemies that require specific attacks to dispatch of, and more. This is admittedly one of those games that I've only played in small bursts at friends' houses when I was younger, so most of my knowledge of this game comes from the retrospective video made by the Golden Bolt. Check that one out after this, it's a pretty good video. Regardless, this is a game that I would love to have a chance to revisit. It was an interesting first title for a studio that has since made some of my absolute favorite games of all time, but their first title isn't the only title I'd like to see get remade. More on that in just a bit.
Shocking, isn't it?
Sucker Punch have developed a fantastic selection of PlayStation exclusive franchises over the years, including the third place winner for PlayStation 2 mascot Sly Cooper, and one of the best samurai games of all time that I can't really make too many jokes about, Ghost of Tsushima. But for the PS3, Sucker Punch created a series of superhero games based around morality and choice, simply called Infamous. While I personally prefer Infamous Second Son for its better written main character and ability to switch between 4 unique powers, Infamous 1 and 2 are fantastic first entries into this budding superhero franchise. The fact that Cole has electricity powers is pretty cool and offers a lot of potential for using your environment to your advantage, and while I wish the morality system wasn't so obviously binary in what choices it gives you, it's still a nice addition to a superhero title that would have otherwise just seen you be Mr. Goody Two-Shoes all over again. Infamous may not be one of Sony's most beloved franchises, but it's a series that I personally feel deserves a bit more attention outside of its 2 PlayStation 4 entries where it gets a lot of its accolades. Plus, Sony already made a sort of HD collection of the first 2 games on PS3, minus the HD part, so all they would really have to do is add that in and I'd be satisfied.
Don't go hurling your controller at the cat, because it might throw something back and it'll only escalate and then, oh.
Media Molecule's first major foray into the PlayStation ecosystem was a cute little platformer called Little Big Planet, and 16-year-old me was transfixed by the potential of the creation tools from the moment I first saw them. I've dabbled a bit in the creation tools with other games like The Sims or level editors in games like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series, but something about the incredible amount of possibility that this game promised hooked me in. The story to these games is usually very simple, basically involving something trying to ruin creativity while you play as a easily flammable character hell-bent on stopping them. The levels all look like they're made from a bargain bin of a Joann Fabrics, and knowing that everything that you see in the world is something that you too can create makes for an experience that allows creativity to thrive. While Media Molecule have been focusing more on their latest creation tool sandbox with Dreams, I would personally love to go back to the original Sack adventure that gave me such great memories of creating silly levels. What's more, they could possibly bring in Little Big Planet 2 and Little Big Planet Karting to make it a whole heck of a collection. And since one of the main selling points of Little Big Planet sequels was that the majority of the content from previous titles would transition into the new adventure, it could allow for some fun cross-contamination and cross-promotion within said final product. But cute little sack people aren't the only way that you can bring some fun cross-promotion into your console, Sony. You already have one of the best options available. Pepsi Man is a game technically not owned by Sony, but it was an exclusive game for the original PlayStation that never made it outside of Japan that I would personally like to try simply because of how absurd the premise and gameplay looks. And I don't have the money to afford import taxes on both a console and the game, so this will work for me. Granted, it's one gigantic advertisement, but it's silly and stupid enough that I find myself laughing hysterically regardless. The game itself is very basic, oftentimes compared to contemporaries like Crash Bandicoot for good reason. Each level sees Pepsi Man running through various environments with the singular goal of bringing some crisp, thirst-quenching Pepsi to some thirsty individual, all while avoiding hazards and the blinding amount of Pepsi product placement in this Pepsi title. Many of the stages also end with segments where Pepsi Man is running towards the camera away from rolling objects, so it has basically everything Sony needs now that Microsoft owns Crash Bandicoot. Is this game's inclusion on this list a bit of a stretch? Admittedly, yes, but I would personally go out of my way to get this never released outside of Japan title over a second remake of what I see as, at best, a good title. Simply put, I've never had a chance to play this, and I would much rather have a chance to play this than a game I've already played a few times and never felt like I truly enjoyed the experience. Which I cannot say for the last title on this list. Dipping back into the Insomniac well one last time, Sunset Overdrive was an Xbox One exclusive title developed by Insomniac Games. But in the years since its release, Insomniac has not only retained the rights to the franchise, but they were bought by Sony and have already said there's basically nothing stopping the studio from making a sequel. So why not have an HD remake of the original game to bring the franchise onto PlayStation systems finally? This one is more of a personal desire over one that I feel would go over well, simply because Sunset Overdrive has become one of my personal favorite titles ever made. and it was one of the only reasons I wanted an Xbox One when the system was initially shown off. The game has you playing as a survivor of a zombie outbreak caused by an energy drink, and allying yourself with the various factions who have sprung up in the remnants of the city. What sets it apart from the rest are its over-the-top and gorgeous visuals, abundance of movement and combat options, and a fantastically self-referential sense of humor. Between Insomniac owning the rights, the studio having voiced multiple times that they want to return to the series, and the fact that this game was the original foundation for what would become Marvel's Spider-Man, making an updated version of the original for PlayStation just makes sense to me. All they'd really need to do is change a few Xbox-specific bits of dialogue and one or two visual jokes to fit to the new system, and then they could possibly bundle it in with a sequel like they did with the Spider-Man Remastered. Sounds like a slam dunk to me.
As I said at the beginning of the video, I have no personal hatred towards The Last of Us itself, just the seemingly unending praise for a game that I see as, if I were to give it a number score, as a 7 out of 10 experience.
Both games do look really good. The fact that Ellie is some of the most prominent LGBT representation in the industry is a stellar achievement, and the original game's ending is still one of the biggest gut punches of an ending I can recall in gaming, even if I feel that the sequel ruined its emotional weight by being made. I just feel like this game has been held to such a high standard for so long that people are blinded to some of its bigger faults. I'm also not a fan of companies pumping out the same game over and over again, either through remakes or rushed sequels, when there are so many other fantastic games out there that could get a lot of love from even just a new re-release. With how much of a limited appeal The Last of Us has, it baffles me that this is the game Sony has been pushing so hard for years. Games like Skyrim are open-ended, they have a lot of unique quests and things like that, but the more linear focus of The Last of Us coupled with some of the darker tones it tackles, I just find it a little silly that this is the horse that Sony is betting everything on. I fully understand why they're doing that given the accolades and sale numbers of the game, but still, I mean, there's so many other great games they could be doing this with.
The games I presented here are all games I would love to see come back in one way or another. And while I know I can't stop Sony from dropping another $100 million on remaking The Last of Us yet again, I can at least put some ideas out into the universe and hope that someone hears them. Anyways, I'm gonna go and try and get a PS2 emulator working on my computer now that I finally have a computer that can potentially handle something like that. Leave a comment down below if there's any other Sony games you'd be interested in seeing get a remastering or remake or whatever you want to call it. And if you're actually excited for another remake of the first Last of Us game, let me know why, because I'm actually kind of curious to know. Either way, thank you all for watching, follow me on these socials, and be sure to subscribe, and I will see all of you in the next video. Take care.